So welcome everyone. My name is Olivia McCuskey and I'm with the Education Alliance. Quickly about the Education Alliance, we exist to mobilize business and community support for public schools, and we are very passionate about helping students build career awareness and be ready for future success. One of the ways we do this is by hosting programs like this West Virginia Ready virtual internship course. I'm excited to welcome Amy Webster with DOW today. She will be speaking with us about career opportunities available in the chemical manufacturing industry and also provide a professional skill facilitation to help you prepare for a career. So a quick outline of today's module. The first 10 to 15 minutes, we will learn about the chemical industry and the types of careers available, and then we'll have some brief Q&A. And then the next 10 to 15 minutes, we will learn about the professional skill. We will finish off with another round of Q&A. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Amy to kick us off.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I thought I'd talk a little bit about me and then about DOW before jumping right into our soft skills. So about me, so as previously mentioned, my name is Amy Webster. I am currently an improvement manager for DOW here at West Virginia Operations, which is located here in South Charleston, West Virginia. So I am a 2015 graduate of DOW Tech, where I had to have a Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering. While in working for DOW, I also have gotten my Master's in Business Administration. So I've been with the company now 8 years, not including my 2 internships prior to that. Started out as a production engineer over at Chemical Mixing, which is here in West Virginia Operations. So what a production engineer does is they're responsible for keeping the plant running. These are 24/7 operations, so you want to improvements in safety, new products, everything like that. I was there for about 14 months, and then I actually transitioned over to Oxide Addicts, which is another plant here, and I became the senior production engineer there. In 2020, I became my current role, which is an improvement manager for all Oxide Addicts, Chemical Mixing, and Triton here in West Virginia Operations. And I'm pleased to be here today because I'm also acting as the site learning leader for the site. I'm originally from Elkins, West Virginia, which is a really small town up near all the ski resorts, so Canaan, Snowshoe, Timberline, all of those. That's a picture of it in the middle. I have 4 younger siblings. I'm married to a civil engineer who works here in Charleston. His name is Ian, and we have 2 dogs, Piper and Oscar, that are both rescues. Personally, I'm very passionate about the animal shelter. You can find me frequently walking dogs, taking care of cats, and things like that. I've played piano for almost 20 years. I also am really passionate about baking and reading. They love it when I bring baked goods in. Professionally, I'm very interested in operations. I actually really enjoy putting on my hard hat and steel-toed boots and walking out in the plant. I do that about every day. Something else I really care about is personal safety. So things like that, such as making sure that you're tied off correctly on the ladder, when you do confined space entry, that everything's appropriate. I'm also really passionate with influential leadership. So that's making sure, so nobody directly reports to me. However, we all have the ability to influence others to behave safely. Everybody here has the opportunity and the ability to stop a job if they see something unsafe and to influence others to act safely. Lastly, but not least, I also do educational outreach. So I do a lot of STEM outreach with our company, and also this brings me here to you today. So about DOW, DOW's pretty large. So as of December 31st, 2020, we had 104 manufacturing sites in 31 countries across the world. So you can see here, we're pretty big. We have around 35,000 employees. And just because you're hired here, that means you have the opportunity to transfer to any of those companies if you want it. What's DOW really big about? So DOW does produce chemicals, but on top of that, we actually want to, we're really big on sustainability. So you can see here, our purpose is to deliver a sustainable future for the world through our material science expertise and collaboration with our partners. We value integrity, respect for people, and protecting our planet. So this sustainability, that's a really big buzzword you hear nowadays. I'm sure you hear about, we want to be sustainable, we want to do things that are good for the planet. Well, DOW actually takes a step farther and says we will do things, and we are doing things that are good for the planet. So what does that mean? So reducing emissions with low cement tile, we partner with companies, and we look at things that we are doing to make things that are better sustainable. The water use in cotton dyeing is EcoFast. I'm kind of going to skip over it because the next slide goes into really good detail about that. A lot of what we make goes into mattresses. So we are making sure to close the loop, so to speak. And so we are taking discarded mattresses and converting them back into polyol that can be used to make new flexible or rigid foam products. So we're reusing all of that stuff. And then helping meet near zero energy standards. So, insulation, so you build a building and you want to make sure that it holds in heat or holds in the cold air, and you don't, when you're trying to condition or heat the building, you're not losing it out to the environment. So we actually work to make this insulation that will hold in the heat better. The solar energy, so this DOW therm is actually produced here in West Virginia. So what this is use solar panels, and solar panels heat up a fluid, and that fluid then is needed to transport to be converted to energy.
It's like a fast.
This fluid actually holds it. Is there a question? So what I was talking about, is basically, Dow's really big with sustainability, and how they are very big with that. One of the other things we can go into detail is clothes dyeing. So has anybody here ever dyed clothes or watched a TikTok video about dyeing clothes? And if you ever have dyed clothes or ever watched somebody, one of the first things you have to do is heat up some water, and it takes a whole bottle of dye. And sometimes you have to do it again and again to get the desired color that you want. And one of the reasons is the polarity of the dye in the clothing. So we actually partner with Ralph Lauren to create this EcoFast Pure, which allows them to use 90% less chemicals, 50% less water, 50% less dye, and 40% less energy, because we can do it room temperature to dye these clothes. And we actually unveiled this at the Olympics with Ralph Lauren. So that's just one way that we are working to make sure that we are sustainable. So here at West Virginia Operations, we produce a lot of surfactants. And so surfactants are things like soap. But you don't go to the store and necessarily buy things that have the red Dow diamond on them, because a lot of our products are base fluids or additives that are added to as their materials. So these are some examples of products that we have Dow materials. But if you notice one right in the middle, it's paint. And that is not soap, but it is a surfactant. And the reason being is you want paint to be spreadable on the wall, but you don't want it to fall back off the wall. So we do a lot of work with that to make sure that we have materials that can help the paint to spread at the desired consistency. Another big thing that Dow is passionate about is inclusion and diversity. So diversity is inviting people to the dance, but inclusion is actually asking them to dance, So how do we do that? So we have a lot of employee resource groups. We have 10 Dow ERGs. And so what those are things like WIN, which is Women Innovation Network, GAN, which is Global African Affinity Network, as well as VetNet for veterans, GLAD for LGBTQ+, and a lot of other ones. And we have 98% of our people leaders participate in Dow ERGs. And as of 2020, 49% of our employees are participating. We also look at our STEM talent pipeline. We want to make sure that we are enhancing those STEM to make sure that, in the future we're ready to go. And diversity representation. 31% of our leadership team is female, and 38% is a U.S. ethnic minority. In 2020, and it happened since then, but this is just in 2020, we were also recognized for our inclusion and diversity. So you can see on the bottom of all these places that have recognized us for being so diverse and inclusive. We're very supportive of our communities in the world. So we want to find sustainable solutions by using our products and technology and expertise for social good. We want to build inclusive communities, so we partner to address the challenges and barriers in the community. And we want to make sure we create tomorrow's innovators. So we want to make sure we have a STEM pipeline for the jobs of tomorrow. We also work to address the world's pressing social challenges. So we have an all-in ERG fund where these different ERGs that I mentioned can ask for funding in order to address something in the local community. We support COVID recovery efforts. So actually, when COVID first happened in 2020, one of the reactors here started producing hand sanitizer within 1 week of being asked by the U.S. government. We do community cleanups. So we removed 1.2 million pounds of waste from the environment with the help of over 6,000 volunteers in 2020. We also, have a DOW Business Impact Fund to grant money, and we also support students. We donate money. We have committed $5 million to historically black colleges and universities, and we also just work through other STEM programming and partnerships globally. We also unveiled our new sustainability targets. By 2030, we will protect the climate by reducing our net annual carbon emissions by 5 million metric tons. And by 2050, we will be carbon neutral. Stop the waste. And by 2030, we will stop the waste by enabling 1 million metric tons of plastic to be collected, reused, recycled through a direct action and partnership. And by 2035, we're also going to close the loop. 100% of our DOW products sold into packaging applications will be reusable or recyclable. So these are entry-level job opportunities here on this slide, and again, these are all-inclusive. I also want to point out that only one of the jobs on this slide requires a 4-year degree, and that would be engineer. So I kept it pretty broad right here, and so these are more about production engineer, honestly, that I listed, but there's different types of engineer. So production engineer is something that I've been, which is responsible for daily operations at the facility. Safety is your number one priority. You also want to improve things. It does require a bachelor's of science in engineering. It also it's an early day, so I'm at work by 7 a.m., but I get to work at 9:80 schedule, so I get every other Friday off. There's others, and so it's a lot of also going out in the field, but there's other types of engineering, such as process engineering, which is more of like a 9-to-5 type deal, and it's a lot of design. So you're sitting at the desk and designing the equipment that's being used in future projects or upgrading what's out there, not to mention your maintenance engineers and everybody else. Next up is an operator. So they do work shift work. So our operators here work what's called a DuPont schedule. So they work 14 shifts a month, but 7 of those are days and 7 of those are night. It's a rotating day and night. It is manual labor. However, there is typically one board operator per shift, and that is usually a most senior operator. And so one person does stay inside on the board, and they're running the control system. Lately, we do prefer a 2-year associate operator technician degree. Here locally, we offer that at Bridge Valley, and actually with DOW, you can get an apprenticeship where we will pay for your school, pay for your studying, pay for you to go to school, and then hire you when your program is done. A lab technician also works shift work. However, they are in the lab. They do the testing of the different lab samples. It does not require a chemistry degree. However, I believe it's like 8 to 10 hours of chemistry that we require here at West Virginia Operations. Now, I can't say the same for other chemical manufacturing facilities. That's just here locally. The last 3 jobs of this are actually typically currently right here at West Virginia Operations. We do not hire them necessarily as DOW employees, but we hire contractors that perform these roles. They come here every day, and they work as if they are an employee here, and we treat them as if an employee, but they're technically a contractor. Some facilities do have them that are direct DOW employees. It's just what works best here in West Virginia Operations. So the first one is a pipe fitter. So that would be sketching, fabricating, installing piping or tubing as needed. A lot of them also have welding experience, so they'll be doing weld repairs on equipment, or actually some pipes require to be welded together instead of flanged with gaskets. If that's something you're interested in, the biggest way to get into that is through an apprenticeship program. Speaking with the individuals who perform these roles, the easiest way is to go to one of your local community colleges and ask about the local union hall that's around. An instrument and electrical tech, which would be an I&E tech, they are super important. The plant's not going to run without them. They could be installing new equipment, such as level transmitter control valves or automatic block valves, but they also are troubleshooting existing equipment. If something isn't opening appropriately or isn't responding right, that's who you're going to call. This does require an apprenticeship and some training, and again, the community college can offer you that. And last but not least, that I want to talk about is a millwright. So millwrights deal with moving equipment, so things like pumps, agitators, things like that, motors. So they're going to install that, but they're also going to be troubleshooting. So lots of times if a pump's not moving, the coupling's broken, which is what connects the pump to the motor, and so they have to replace that. And again, that requires some type of apprenticeship. But usually you are working through that apprenticeship, so you're still being paid. So if you start out that job, there is room to grow. And so again, I wanted to talk about the only one on here that requires is a degree is the site leader. And so the site leader is your most senior leader at site. They do a lot of interaction with the community as well as the plant. they need to have multiple role experience. So someone that's very experienced in the company before they take this type of role. So they've done the production engineering, they've done the improvement engineering, they've done the production leader, they've done a lot of different things. Next up is your technical advisor. So it's typically a respected senior operator that then becomes straight day shift, and they are eligible for overtime. They don't actually work the shift with the operators. They work straight Monday through Friday. However, if there's issues and they stay late, they can get overtime. And what are they doing? They're assisting operators on shift with tag outs, task completion, as well as training for the newer operators. Your work activity coordinator actually works really close with your gatekeeper, but the work activity coordinator is the maintenance side. They plan maintenance to be completed. So you want to schedule work based on priority and availability of workers. And typically they have some sort of experience with a maintenance craft preferred, and then we hire them as DOW employees to be the work activity coordinator. So they're the ones that planning if you have things happening and you have workers on the third floor of a structure, you don't want somebody on the second floor working directly under them, especially if there's a lift going on. So they make sure that the workers are across the plant so nothing happens. The scheduler is the person who actually schedules what's being made on the reactors. So our reactors are batch, which means they shut down and start up constantly. And we have people that actually work to make sure we have raw materials that are needed. We have shipments going on, we have trucks, everything. They do work with operations to identify priorities on downtime. So because we're constantly starting up and shutting down, it makes it easier to do maintenance, but we need to make sure we talk to them about that. Because if something takes 2 days to do, they won't need to know about it. These schedulers have a wide variety of backgrounds. We have some that have no degree, we have some that have engineering degree, we have some that have just some experience with maintenance. It can be a wide variety. Your analytical technologist is somebody that assists the lab technicians with samples of troubleshooting equipment. They work to maintain the equipment, up-to-date methods to run samples, and again, they are also on day shift, Monday through Friday, but they are overtime eligible. And last but certainly not least is gatekeeper. So this represents the facility to maintenance. So as I talked about, the work activity coordinator makes sure that the work is happening in ways that's safe for everybody. However, the gatekeeper works with the work activity coordinator to make sure that the maintenance can be done at the facility. Because just because you have the workers to work on something doesn't mean it's ready to be worked on. The gatekeepers have experience with either maintenance or operations in order to do that role. Does anybody have any questions?
One thing that is not exactly related to this, but just a general question, is like your programs for college payment, et cetera, the STEM pipeline that you talked about, is kind of the goal of that. I know, like, all due respect, but chemical companies commonly get bad raps from the media and just general members of communities. So is the goal of that to kind of try to integrate yourself into that as a marketing tactic? Is that how that is?
It's actually more because we realize that, you want to have workers for tomorrow. And especially here in West Virginia, people that are from West Virginia want to stay in West Virginia. It's hard. It can be challenging to convince somebody from Texas or Louisiana, where there's chemical companies all around, to move up here. So sometimes it's easier to, make sure that people that are here are passionate about STEM and want to stay here and give them an opportunity to work in these roles.
Got it. Okay.
But yes, chemical companies unfortunately do get a lot of bad rep in the community, so we do try to turn that around by working closely with the community.
That was a great question.
Yes. Anything else?
And Amy, if someone is interested in the apprenticeship programs, I know you all do work pretty closely with the Kanawha County schools to go out and recruit from the Kanawha County schools. But if someone is in a different county, how can they find information about the apprenticeship program?
So if you go to a lot to our websites, you can find information. If you also want to reach out to me, I can pass on the information to who hires. We do work closely with Kanawha County just because of travel restrictions, and that we could try to go to those schools and recruit, but anybody can get a job in the apprenticeship program. It's not limited just to this local area. So for our activity, I thought I'd work on a soft skill of communication. So communication is really important, and I know we hear that and you think, okay, but why isn't it important? So for me, it's important because I'm working with people that are much older or even younger than me. You have a wide variety of backgrounds, and we want to make sure we all understand what we're doing. Something needs to be tagged out. Who's doing the work? Who's coming? When are they coming? Everything. But why is it important for you all? Think about it. When you've done a group project, And if you didn't talk about who's actually doing what, doesn't somebody end up doing a lot of the work? And then you're frustrated because you feel like the other person didn't help out. Or if you're trying to like make plans with your friends and y'all want to go out for dinner, but you need to talk to figure out where you're going out for dinner. Or even with like your parents or other relationships, you know, if you don't talk to the person and say, hey, I'm going to do this, or hey, I want to do this, and then they don't understand. So it's a good thing, you know, communication is really important in a variety of things. But it also is very important for business because it does build and maintain those relationships. It fosters innovation. You know, when you feel like you can communicate to people, you're going to talk about like, hey, I had this great idea. Let's go do this, because you feel like there's an open line. It does build effective teams because, you know, people are listening to you. It supports growth of the organization. Managing employees is easier, not just necessarily for those like the leaders that have the employees, but also just among each other with that influential leadership. And effective communication ensures transparency. So if you're an effective communicator and somebody asks you to go do something, or you ask someone, they understand and they trust that what you're asking them to do is something that needs to happen. So they're more willing to do something. So we're going to do an exercise. This does require a partner. One person is going to need a pencil and paper. The first person is going to be the artist. So you're going to be drawing something, which is on the next slide. However, your eyes are going to be closed and you cannot talk. And person B is going to describe the drawing, but you cannot touch the paper, you cannot assist with the drawing. And so you have 60 seconds. I'll give you some time to get set up and get a partner, and then we will count down.
All right, we will grab materials and be back in just a moment.
All right, sounds good. Just let us know whenever y'all are ready.
All right, we are good.
All right, let me get out my time you. So on your mark, get set, go.
And it's still on the instruction. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So draw a circle.
It's your eyes open.
Remember, the person drawing can't ask questions either.
Circles inside that circle, but not touching. So, yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now draw a line. Okay. Draw a triangle in between those two circles. Yep. Right there. Now draw two lines going right.
Weird.
Go down a little bit.
Have a tail.
Go down a little bit. Go to the right. All right. Whatever. You want that. Okay. Line. Okay. And now do it the other way. Okay. Okay. Now draw.
I'll give you guys an extra 30 seconds.
Another circle underneath, but not like touching it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Move to the left. Left. Okay. Got it. Now draw another circle. Okay, that's fine. Now draw two. Now go down from that circle. And draw.
No, I didn't tell you.
Rectangle, like a tiny rectangle. Okay. And then.
All right, it's been a minute and a half. So for the first person drawing, you can open your eyes and see what we were supposed to be drawing. And did anybody get it?
That's what I got, bro. I don't know what
Sure.
I don't think
Okay.
We did our best.
All right. So how about we do it again? However, you're still going to have your eyes closed, but you can actually talk to the other person.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so we can both communicate.
Yeah, you can both communicate. Because it was pretty hard when only one person could talk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you all, because this one's going to be tougher, so I'll give you 90 seconds again, because I think we got some time. So I'll give you 90 seconds. So are you all ready to do it again?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Let's get started.
Draw another circle. Okay, draw 2 circles inside of that circle on the bottom of the circle. So right there, yeah. Okay. And then, yeah. Yes, perfect. Okay. Now put your middle. Down more. Okay, smiley face to the right. More of those. Okay, got it. Now draw. Like this. Just squiggly. Where's the picture?
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Now let's do another C, right where you were drawing. Bring it back. Right here. Bring it back.
That's good. Yeah.
Now do the same to the other side.
Oh, other way.
Draw that.
Other way.
I would say.
A little more than right.
Down and
Okay.
down and edge. That's not an inch, actually.
Dude, that is an inch, bro.
That is straight up a centimeter.
All right, 90 seconds is up. How do we do?
Oh, I guess.
Was it a little easier this time?
Perhaps.
Because I said, all right, that's what they told me.
Tentacles are a lot easier. Somewhat.
Hey, guys.
Somewhat easier? Okay. So how about we do it? This will be the last time. However, both people can have their eyes open. Both people can talk. And both people can help. Think it'll be a lot easier this time? All right.
Yeah.
So I'll give,
All right.
yeah. I'll give you 90 seconds again. Start.
Okay.
I love to see the picture.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody can see the picture. You can talk.
All right, I can draw this.
Everybody can look at
I told Nate, I was like, go see. I said,
Oh, you got it. He's gonna see every which way.
no, but I told him, I was like this, he had his eyes closed, and he didn't even feel the face. Nate was, I was like,
No, I'm surprised. Well, I said it's a bird, you know, it's like
Dude, why does it only have 2 legs?
Standing perfectly still behind the other, I guess.
It's gonna be easier. A lot easier. I mean, the drawing's fine, but.
Hang on, bro.
Yeah, you
Look at that.
can't draw stick figures. I was gonna draw like straight up and down.
Hang on, I got that. I got it.
All right, 90 seconds is up. How was that one?
Very good.
Very good. So for the people that had to draw, how was it the first round when you couldn't talk? Was it really frustrating?
Pretty hard.
Yeah. And then the person that was communicating, you're trying to make sure you talk about it all, but they can't respond to you. Right? So it kind of shows, just how well we have to be able to communicate, because the first person didn't know what we were drawing and was trying to replicate it on paper. So, does anybody have any questions or anything? 'Cause that's all I had.
I have a question for all of the students. How do you think that communication, even just when you're working in school with a group project, how important is it for both people to communicate? Or even when you're on like a sports team or a band or something like that, what makes communication so vital for all parties?
I'll let you know what the other person is doing, so you don't do it. Yeah.
Anybody else have any input? Last communication by it keeps things from getting chaotic.
Great point. Yeah, it keeps things from getting chaotic like we just saw. Awesome. Well, I know we have about 2 minutes left. Are there any final questions for Amy about communication or anything at DOW in general?
I think we are good.
All right. Amy, any final thoughts?
It was a pleasure getting to talk to you all, and thank you for letting me have this opportunity.